Hey guys, it's Alicia here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how I set up my files for Component.Studio, and then show you how I go about using them. So I'm going to start by opening up a GameCrafter template for the poker cards. You can do this in about any image editor, so Photoshop isn't needed. Once you have your window adjusted, you're going to be dropping in images you want to use on your cards. Alright, so let's pick out some images. For this, I'm just going to use some example images. So let's just pick out some potions maybe. And then we're just going to drag them into Photoshop. Photoshop will place them as smart images, but they don't need to be smart images for this. Let's just grab a couple more items. And we'll just place these in. And the blue orb. Oops. There we go. Let's go ahead and add in our background, just for reference. And we'll reorganize some of these layers. Now I always take the background layer, make it into a layer itself, pop it up front. I remove all the white. And of course all the text. Let's cut that out. And then we'll go ahead and lower the opacity on it. So with our background in the back, we're going to select all the images, make them visible, and resize them. Now I'm going to kind of do them all together, and then go one by one, and just adjust them. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this. Alright, once they're all done, we're going to go ahead and hide the template, and also the background. Now I had a couple files already set up, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those in, and get rid of these. I'm going to go ahead and select them all, and bring them on in. Or at least a couple of them. Alright, you can see how I actually added shadows to each one. Now here is a trick that I use when saving multiple images in Photoshop. First I'm going to delete the template and the background image. And then I'm going to go up to my File, Script, Export, Layers to Files, and it's a fast version. You can get the script online. It's pretty easy to install, but you don't necessarily need it. It just allows you to save each layer quicker, but you can just save each layer as its own. Make sure it's a PNG, make sure it has a transparent background. That's very important. So I pre-set up my files, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into Component.Studio. Alright, we're going to start by hitting Projects at the top. This will open us onto a new page. This is where we create our project. For this, it's usually like a game. So you can see I have 3 already set up. We're going to call this one Weapon Masters. Now just hit the little plus button to add. Thumbs up are active projects. Thumbs down are inactive projects. You can use that to keep track of what you're working on. Hit the little edit button and it'll jump us into our project page. Here you can keep notes and track of everything that you have on the project. Next up, we can pick fonts. Here they have a wide selection of fonts. You can search by types, categories, weight, and style. You can also search for specific fonts. And you can also add your own, as long as you own them. We're going to go ahead and look for a font. Here we go. I like this font. The letters are nice and even, and I like the way it looks. So you hit the little paintbrush to add it to your palette. Anything added to your palette can be pulled up later on. Let's go to images. We already have the folder open. Let's go ahead and name it. Plus button to add. And now we can drag and drop all of our images. I have my card back and some glows, but there's also some cards in this file I don't need. So we'll go ahead and unselect them. You'll notice that they load up pretty quickly. Now I'm going to open up an example image I made, just for reference. This is what I want my final cards to look like. Next, we're going to go to Datasets. Now I always like to have my image window open so I can easily access my images when needed. Alright, now let's create our dataset. Go ahead and name it, and the plus button to add. Alright, we're going to want to add rows for all of our cards. In this case, we have 9 unique cards, so we just count our images and add that many rows. As you can see by the counter, it tells you how many rows you've created. There we go, all 9. Now we can start naming them after our cards. It's important because you're going to need it later. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this. Alright, now it's time to add some columns. I reloaded the page to adjust the alphabetical order. So for the cards, I'm going to work from the front, back. So first, I want to add images. So I add image as a column. Next, we're going to want to add in the glow. Every card is going to have a unique colored glow. Next up is going to be the power value in the red circle. So we're just going to put in power. The black circle is the value, so we're just going to enter value. Now that that is set up, pull up the image window from before. You can click the little copy to clipboard button on images and paste them directly into your dataset. This way you can pull them up later. Another way is using the drop-down arrow. You can select your folder, then you can select your image. For me, it's faster to just copy and paste. Now you can also import your own SVC that you built in your computer using files you hosted on things like Imgur, Google Drive, or Dropbox. I went ahead and jump cut here and already filled everything out. Let's go ahead and hit Designs at the top. Designs are where you build your cards. So let's go ahead and name them. You can select your card size, how you want your fronts and back to be aligned together. There are many options. You can also choose your component set or data set. You can change landscape or portrait. Let's just go ahead and hit the plus. Alright, let's build our cards. With our example image up, we're going to work from the background forward this time. Grab your image web page from before, and I'm going to grab my background image. So let's click Add Image. Now copy URL and paste it right into that field. It should render automatically. There are tons of things you can do with an image. You can resize it, you can change its position, you can invert its colors even. There are advanced settings where you can do tons of things. There's also something called conditionally rendered. We're not going to get into that today, but it's pretty cool. Now using the little bar at the top, we're going to hide the box so we don't get to see all the settings. We're going to also name the box Background. Now, let's add a new image. Now this one's going to be glow, so we're going to use our component variables. We defined these in the datasheet. They're named after the name of our columns. All you have to do is click it, and it'll add it to your clipboard. If we go back and look at the datasheet, you can see all the titles. Those will be our variables. Let's go ahead and name this Glow Image. Or just Glow. Now, click Glow and add it there. It should auto-render. Now if you go and check the cards, it'll be different based on where we added it. This reflects from our datasheet. I told the datasheet to load this color for this card, and it did. So let's go back to our main image, and next we're going to add something new. Looking at our reference sheet, next up is going to be a weapon. So let's minimize this and add a new image. Now I'm going to show you a quick example of why setting up your images early actually really helps. So I'm going to upload a random piece of art, and it's a rather big image. So let's drop it in. We're going to copy its URL and paste it in the box. Now it's not centered or properly sized or anything. And that's what these boxes come in handy for. So you're going to be basically guessing the size that you want your image to be at. That's way too small. Now we have to figure out its position. Yeah, that's pretty centered. Oh, too far. Now if I had resized this in an image editor and had it as a PNG, you wouldn't have to do any of this. Let's go ahead and delete it, and we'll move on. Alright, add a new image, and we're going to go ahead and add our weapon variable. Copy and paste. Let's go ahead and rename it, and look at that, perfect size and placement. Next up, let's add a name. So add text. Well, that's not what we want. Let's go ahead and delete all this and leave name. Oh, that's a little bit better. Let's go ahead and change the font color. Let's go white. Let's go ahead and add a stroke. Black, of course. 3 to 5, depending on what you want. It's usually pretty good. Let's go ahead and pick the font we picked earlier. And let's make this text a bit bigger. That's too big. But that's okay. Let's go to Advanced Features. Let's show our outline of our box and fit text to box. Now when we go up above and change the size of our text box, whatever the size it is, our text will adjust. This is a little bit of guesswork, but it gets easier as you go. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this bit. Alright, let's add a shadow to our font. You can adjust the opacity, the color. You can even use the drop shadow as a highlight if you want to. Alright, let's check the font on other cards. This is where you can decide if you want to make the font centered or not. I test it out and decide not. Alright, back to the main card. Next up, power. Let's go ahead and minimize and add text. Oh, we should probably name this. Alright, add text. Power. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this. It's almost exactly the same as adding the name. Just going to adjust the box and move the font around. Once I have a good placement, I always like to test it on other cards. Some numbers can jump around a little bit. Between the 2 and the 4, I think I kind of want it over just a couple more pixels. So I adjust. So since value and power are very similar, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate power and minimize some of these. Now let's go ahead and rename it. And also make sure to change the variable. Then we're going to adjust some settings here. I'm going to fast forward, just moving it and adjusting font size. Next up, let's preview all our cards. I disabled the overlay at the top. All the cards look great. Alright, once your cards are all set, you can hit back at the top. And here we're going to add the back of our cards. So for me, it's pretty simple. It's just one image. We're going to go here, pull up our images, copy the URL, and paste. There we go. All set. Once you're done, you can hit back to designs at the top. From here, you can export to tons of things, like Tabletop Simulator. You can export to the Game Crafters, print and plays, or even zips of all your files. That's the basics of using Component.Studios, at least how I do it. I hope you learned a thing or two. Thanks for watching.